Hey there. So, once again, I'm going to an event at the last minute. I am going to the, what do you call them? Screening of Dragonfire. You know, check the title. I'm running late as fuck!
So our first two guests this afternoon, attending his first society event for 33 years, we have the writer of Dragonfire, Ian Briggs, and alongside Ian, attending his first ever Doctor Who convention, the designer, John Asbridge. The cliffhanger. How did it react to what you visualised and what you put on a piece of paper?
That wasn't meant to be the cliffhanger for the episode, for a start. The cliffhanger was the end of the previous scene, which is where the dragon makes his appearance. It kind of makes sense, it's called Dragonfire. You can see the point where it was meant to end, because it's where Bonnie screams, and that scream goes straight into the end of the episode. I mean, that was obviously a choice that was made in post-production. It's a neat idea, it's a funny idea. The cliffhanger is a literal cliffhanger.
Could it have been that the episode was underrunning?
I don't think so. I think because all it's done is it's switched kind of one or two scenes.
Okay.
The episode was actually overrunning.
Oh.
It must have been because there was a scene earlier where Glitz is trapped beneath a kind of a shard of ice. And the Doctor saves his life, essentially. And this was the counterpoint to that, where Glitz repays the favour by saving the Doctor's life. But that was dropped. I remember shooting that, so that was definitely shot. So that was dropped to shorten the thing a bit. So it wasn't that it needed extending at all. It begs the question that when they get down to the bottom, how did they get all the way down there anyway? I mean, we're talking about a drop of a couple of kilometres.
I mean, it's just that thrill of first reading a script. As a designer and the way I work, I can't help but just start scribbling straight away and drawing things. I wish I could find my original script, because I know the margins will be full of icicles and corridors and all of that. I must have known at the time that we were also doing, I think it was Delta and the Bannerman,
Yes.
At that time. And looking through my old notebooks, I could see drawings of a man in a straw hat hanging by an umbrella on the balcony, alongside addresses for hangars in near Barry Island. So I must have had to think about both stories at the same time.
Can I just say, it's fantastic that there are still people like yourself, John,
Alive.
That was a tremendous pickup on my cue. People like yourself who are attending their first ever Doctor Who convention. It's incredible to think that Doctor Who fandoms, I'm sure you know, is all encompassing, and for you to sort of slip through the nets until very recently, it's fantastic.
Well, there's a certain guy up there who's to blame for this.
Bobby Dunlop.
Yes. It was a real eye-opener, because I probably actually hadn't watched any of my Doctor Who's since they were transmitted. It really made me sort of, coming to that showing here, really made me think, actually, get it out of the box. It's a bit of broadcasting history.
I thought she was just like a one-off character. That's what, that's why she became the way she did, because I didn't have to kind of constrain her to any future or anything like that. She just became the character that I'm really enthused about. When coming to do another story later, there was kind of, it gave me an opportunity to kind of take some bits that I'd written earlier about her parents and about the time storm and things like that, and reuse those in a much more interesting way.
What's the process when you're first approached for a role in Doctor Who? Who makes the first contact with you? Edward, would you like to start?
You get a call from your agent. saying, are you interested in Doctor Who? And you say, yeah, certainly. Bring it on.
Oh, isn't it lovely? I like a microphone. What do you want to know?
How were you first approached?
At that time, in one's life, one used to have a bucket list, and on the bucket list was Doctor Who, Jack and Ori, and Morecambe and Wise, to play like a Glenda Jackson. Then I wasn't auditioned for or anything. I don't even remember how I got Doctor Who. I was told the director wanted me to do it. I don't even know if I met him. So it was extraordinary, because it was on my bucket list. And it was like I didn't have to give an audition. It was extraordinary.
Tony, how were you first approached for the part in Dragonfire?
I have to be honest and say I don't quite remember exactly. What I do recall is that when I realised exactly what it was, I was delighted to have been offered the opportunity.
Well, actually, I was a very close friend of Chris Clough, and his wife Annie had been the maid of honour at their wedding. And I think it's
Favouritism.
well, I think it probably was. I think it probably was. It probably was. I probably thought, well, there's a part there and Sheeran can do it, you know. She doesn't mind getting messed up or anything like that, which I didn't. And I still don't.
And that costume, I think I read somewhere it came from Blake Seven. It was a reused costume.
I can't remember, but I just know I loved it. It was very camp, and I adored it.
And did you have to be careful with it, with the scene with the drink?
I don't remember, to be absolutely honest. I've never been terribly careful with my costumes anyway.
I was so looking forward to playing a villainess in Doctor Who, and I had, Kate O'Mara, my chum at the time. She played one just recently, and it was all very glamorous and gorgeous and wonderful. And suddenly there I am in a bloody policeman's uniform with a helmet. So they put my hair up under the helmet, and I thought, oh, this is horrific. And then a friend of mine, David Fairgrave, who used to put on conventions, said, oh, I bought your Doctor Who costume at an auction. I said, what? That policeman's thing? I said, have you got the helmet? He said, no, I couldn't afford it. And then for my death scene that one, I said, I'm not wearing the helmet to make up people. And they said, yes, well, you have to wear the helmet. I said, I don't, so take it off. He said, but they said, but Bonnie. I said, what about Bonnie? He said, Bonnie's hair and your hair, because I had long hair. I said, ah, I see. Well, you can put my hair up, but I'm having my hair.
Patricia, what's it like watching yourself on screen?
Brilliant. I've just seen him with his umbrella. That's Doctor Who with his umbrella. I think that's fascinating. And his jumper, I thought, I know that man. The designer and the cliff face umbrella man. It was all bloody Sylvester McCoy's fault, as far as I remember, because he just wanted to show off that he could do that. And he said, I can go down by my umbrella and whatever. We all said, oh, for God's sake, where did it go to? It went to nothing, you know. You thought, is that it? All that fuss. So you can tell both those guys it was his fault. Okay?
So, watching yourself on screen, what's it like?
So we're currently just in the queue for photos. And there's Sylv and Sophie chillaxing together. The king of having one trouser leg rolled up and the other one not. So I just had my photo with Sophie, which just waiting to get printed later on in the event, and I'm here with the Riverside Boy again.
When we were doing it, way back then, I realised we were on an ice world. So I said to Sophie, who, listen, we're on an ice world, so we shall slide everywhere.
Yes, you did do that quite a bit, didn't you?
No one else did. Everyone was walking around. They're all walking around as if they were in Harrods.
It was funny because I remember, because you and I were.
Yeah, I mean, I was using the using the world that we were in, which is another element, and that was always something that rather annoyed the directors, was that we would rehearse in the rehearsal room and then we'd get on the set or on the location, and then I'd start to use the location, to actually use it. That became part of the thing that I really enjoyed doing. What do we call
cliffhanger.
it? The cliffhanger, the cliffhanger. It was when we got there, I thought, oh wow, I'll hang off a cliff, it's a cliffhanger. And never before the cliffhanger was a real cliffhanger.
We discussed that earlier with Ian, didn't we? That shouldn't have been the cliffhanger.
Oh really? All right. So I upstaged your cliffhanger. Yes.
Predictable question, perhaps. What would you say is your favourite, not favourite story, but your favourite performance as the Doctor?
Well, I think it's the one in. Actually, there's two now because I just saw the Happiness Patrol last week, and I'd forgotten about that scene. There's a scene in that where I confront the guys with the guns. And I mean, that was the essence of my kind of Doctor. When I first arrived, I decided that my Doctor, I was surprised, I hadn't seen it for years, to discover that the Doctor had used violence sometimes. There were scenes of Tom Baker beating someone up, and that was just in the pub. And there was things like that, and I thought, no, my Doctor's, he uses his brain, not the brawn. The other one was the one in Remembrance of the Daleks, where I'm with George Marcel, and we're discussing this sugar lump and slavery and that. I love those moments, those kind of quiet internal moments as well. Yeah.
I think people had said to you, Ian, hadn't they? Oh, she gets blown up to Iceworld in a time storm. What's that all about? That's a good excuse. So then he went and wrote Curse of Fenric and went, ha! There you are, you see. It was all the plan all the way along. But I think you gave me as an actor, and Andrew as well, obviously, so much to do. There was, Ace has grown up a bit. She's seducing a soldier at one point. She's falling in love with another unsuitable bloke. She's all the stunts I had to do. And of course,
we had to do.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
She keeps forgetting about me now.
Well, I was thinking about Lulworth
recently.
Cove and the diving into the sea.
Well, I was standing there next to you, pushing you in. In the beginning, when they said, we're talking about having a new companion, I said I didn't want a screamer. That was it, really. We didn't go out a screamer. Can you scream?
Yeah, I can. But I noticed, though, I did do a bit of it.
Oh, did you in the early one?
Yelp just then, when Kane comes for me with the hands. I was thinking, oh, I wouldn't have done that nowadays, or subsequently. But because she wasn't that kind of character. That was how you conceived her, wasn't it?
So when I watch me now, I'm not too keen on watching me even now, this old man. The toilet's just up there on the right. Don't feel embarrassed, we're all watching it. Bye!
I'd just love to know what it was like when you first met each other in the making of the story. Did you know that Sophie was going to become a companion, or was she a one-off character for this story in original conception?
Well, the idea was that during that time, because they knew that, I think that Bonnie was leaving, so the one before, Delta and the Bannerman, Sarah in that, she was kind of being considered, and it was just seeing the chemical thing. I don't know if Bonnie left early, but suddenly, luckily for us, Bonnie left when Sophie was being tested, as it were, and so they asked me if they thought it was a good idea, and then Sophie gave me £3,000 and I said yes.
They said to my agent, it was for 3 episodes, and they were also looking for somebody who could take over as the companion. So I started not knowing whether that was going to happen or not. We had the first week of rehearsals. Tony Selby, it was funny, he kept saying, "Oh, Ace would make such a great companion. Don't you think Ace would make such a good companion?" And then the end of that first week came. Everyone said, "Right, see you at TV Centre." I had to go up to Bonnie and say, "Bonnie, where is TV Centre?" Because I'd never been there before and nobody realised. That's when I stood in front of a camera for the very first time, was the scene with Kane holding up the coin. That was I didn't have a screen test or anything. So they didn't know what I would look like on screen. So they would, and then at the end of that first day, they asked me to stay behind. I thought, oh no, what have I done? And John Nathan Turner came sort of clinking down the stairs at the side of the studio, lit up a cigarette, can you imagine that these days? And said, "Well, darling, we're on if you're on." And I took that to mean, oh, okay, I must have done all right today then. And that was it.
I can picture JNT saying that as well.
Power of the Doctor, I did find it a bit intimidating because the first day I had was in the museum in Bristol. And I had the great joy of standing for a long time in front of this beautiful Pre-Raphaelite painting, looking at it. But that was quite, because I didn't know anyone. Everyone was in masks, so you couldn't kind of, couldn't. I'd never met the director before. I'd had a quick chat with him on the phone, and I was quite nervous because, was I even going to remember the lines? I don't know. And I walked onto the set, and it was the first AD. Sort of everyone stopped what they were doing, and I came on set, and they stood me in place. And the first AD said, "Everybody, I'd just like to say welcome back, Sophie Aldred," and everybody burst into applause, and that was so moving. It was really lovely, and I realised that this young crew had all grown up being, watching Doctor Who, and they'd because I thought, nobody's going to know who I am, but they all did, and it was really, really lovely atmosphere. It's great.
I joke that Sophie, when we first met, she laughed at my jokes, and now she's beginning to fade with them now. 30 years later.
Never.
30 years later.
I think I don't know. I think we shared a lot of the same ideas.
Our politics and our philosophy of life, and
we'd both done the working men's clubs, and
we
both and birthdays.
Yeah.
And also, I think we both want to get the most out of life, don't we? Well, that's what I see in you.
Yes. Still interested in over the horizon.
My legs.
So I have just come out of the event. Here's my photo with Sophie. I'm not really a fan of how my chin and my neck kind of merge into one, but other than that, it's a pretty cute photo. I like it. And I got her to sign Survival. And I talked to her about how she's going to be in a music video for a band who made a song about her, and how I remember her from Words and Pictures, the educational kids show, and she remembers the magic pencil. Lovely times. But yeah, that was my attending the screenings of Time Dragonfire. As I said, I got the ticket very last second, and I was like, screw it, why not? Nice way to spend a Sunday. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, essentially a highlight reel of interviews, but whatever.